Hello there. Once again, we're starting here because, well, not because I have to cough. Because after the credits and shortly after I stopped recording, we got a little message saying if we start the game again, we can see Kaine's story. That involves a lot of reading. It's very much similar to that Forest of the Myth dungeon we all love so much. So strap in for a bunch of that. If the game had more budget, or spent less of it on making a gardening mechanic work, maybe, then we might have been able to see this in a cutscene, or some sort of playable part. But it wasn't until Automata that they were actually given a decent budget.
With Kaine, I was reminded about something from my past. Maybe my mind has been confusing her with my sister this whole time. Here we go.
His sister was apparently a loudmouth hussy. So, the way this is going to work is, I thought about this. I'm pretty much going to record myself breakneck running through the second half of the game. And during sections where you haven't seen what's going on, I'm going to be cutting in. And you'll see that recording, and I'll narrate some of it. Sections that you have seen before will be edited out, so there's going to be no travel time, no interacting with characters. That's pretty much it. So yeah, that's how that's going to play out. But for now, Kaine's backstory. The sound of rain filled the village. Yes, I will be narrating because I know there are people that just have this on as sort of a background thing. So there. The steep cliffs that surround the area magnified sound, causing even the slightest drizzle to rattle like a thunderstorm. Thin wisps of smoke streamed out from huts as the villagers huddled together in homes and waited out the rain. A single child, however, had braved the downpour and was now wandering slowly towards the wooden hawk-shaped weather vane at the center of town. The wanderer reached the vane, which had existed for as long as anyone could remember, and stared. The child's face was simultaneously delicate and fierce, like a teacup that had survived a shipwreck. Those traits combined with a pale white skin gave the face an almost sexless quality. If the beak turns east, I go home. If it stays west, then I... The child blinked. Rain slowly dripped down on the young one's short hair and began its long descent to the ground. Come on. Come on. The child felt a slight breeze and watched the vein slowly creak to life. Spinning this way and that for a moment, it finally settled with its beak firmly pointing towards the east. East? Really? Before the vein could move again, a jagged rock came spinning and tumbling through the air, finally striking home against the child's head. The force of the blow dropped the child to the ground as a hail of stones began to fall all around. Oh no, they found me. A heartbreaking smile crept across the child's face as the stones continued their assault. Through the rain, the sound of multiple footsteps grew louder before a voice rang out. Yoo-hoo, Kaine. The voice belonged to Demo, worst of all the bullies in the area. As Kaine struggled to stand, a final stone came skittering through the mud and bounced against her foot. Blood oozed from a cut above her eye and blurred her vision, but she could make out shapes of Demo and his usual gang of idiots. The boy seemed taken aback for a moment by Kaine's seeming indifference towards the blood dripping from her face, but quickly regained his bravado. What's up, freak? You like the rain? You like getting all wet? Or did you finally decide to run away from home? Though she knew it was futile, Kaine turned to leave. Before she could get more than a few steps, the other children scrambled around her, cruelty burning in their eyes. Excuse me. Kaine knew those were not the eyes on her. The tormentor's parents watched from the safety of their homes. She was attuned to this sensation. It was one she had experienced many times before. While some villagers simply turned a blind eye to the actions of the children, many encouraged it openly. In a society ruled by superstition and fear, Kaine was something to be hated and, if possible, destroyed. I didn't say you could leave, freak. Demo's words chewed at her like a worm through an apple. He can't hurt me, she lied to herself. Be strong, be brave. He can't hurt me. He can't hurt me. He can't hurt. Oh, look, the little freak's going to cry. What's wrong? Are you sad everyone hates you and wants you dead? Kaine prayed for the rain to flood down and carry her away from a world that seemed to have no place for her. But if there were gods, they chose to ignore her. As Demo crept ever closer, the clouds began to thin and the rain slowed. Even the weather hates me. I'm useless, a failure. I wish Demo's rock had taken my head off. Kaine could not meet Demo's leering gaze. She lowered her eyes and stared at the muddy ground below her. The bully moved forward until he was inches away. She could smell the scent of old meat on his breath. The boy grabbed Kaine's face with thick fingers and yanked it upwards. She tried to turn away, but he forced her gaze back and jammed his thumb against the eyelid to pry it open. You're a freak. No, I'm not. Did you just say no? Demo grinned evilly. You don't say no to me. No one says no to me. Not even taking his attention from Kaine, he called to his cohorts. Come on, guys, let's give this freak what she deserves. As soon as Demo finished, kicks and blows began to rain down upon Kaine. Demo paused, still grinning as Kaine curled into a ball and tried to make the pain stop. I don't get you, freak. What you acting like a girl for? Everyone knows what you really are. Kaine ignored the question, choosing instead to stare at the weather vane and continued to point east, as if supremely confident about the future it had chosen for her. Go home? Yeah, it's a funny joke for someone with dead parents and no home to go to. Freak, chanted the children. Freak, freak, freak. Kaine closed her eyes and listened to the rain, waiting for the pain to start again. And as the clutching hands of the village children closed around her, she bent her mind to the sound of rain, letting it become her world entire. The rain fell, but the pain never came. Only when the laughter of her tormentors turned to terrified cries did she dare open a single blood-caked eye. Kaine was shocked to see Demo sprawled on the ground, holding his head and screaming in pain. She could see blood welling from spaces between his fat, twisted fingers. Oh my god, he's crying. He's actually crying. Deprived of their leader, the other children glanced back and forth between themselves, as if waiting for someone to step forward or take charge. When no savior emerged, they began to uneasily shuffle away from Kaine. But the young girl was the least of their concerns. Instead, their attention was rapt on an ancient woman standing a few feet away. After struggling for breath for a moment, she finally spoke with thick rage. Hurts like a bitch, don't it? Now I suggest you scatter before I throw another one. And if any of you little bastards ever touches my Kaine again, I'll do far worse than throw a rock. You can count on it. The old woman crouched down and gently touched the hand Demo was using to cover the wound. Before he could think to protest, she ground her palm into the wound and twisted it back and forth. Ow! He screamed, leaping to his feet. Stop it! What are you doing? Quit whining. Ain't no one ever died from a scratch. You hit me with a rock, you stupid bitch. A big one. That thing could have killed me. The old woman shrugged. Death is the best cure for stupid. Demo's face twisted with rage at her words. Locking his eyes on Kaine, he took a step back and spat on the ground. Get out. Leave this village. No one wants you here. Either of you. Seeing the old woman grab another stone, Demo and his companions turned tail and ran. As they fled, the old woman grabbed her side and barked out a single laugh. Ha! Look at the fat boy go. Guess he's healthy enough to run from a fight. The woman's smile faded as she turned her attention to Kaine. Kneeling down, she removed her shawl and placed it around the young girl's shoulders, then produced a cloth from the folds of her dress and began blotting the blood on her forehead. Oh, Kaine, she said, why didn't you fight back? You're stronger than that lot. The words of her grandmother stung Kaine as she turned away. Don't be nice to me, she said. I don't deserve it. Nothing matters anymore. Her tears, held in check for so long, finally began to fall on the muddy ground below. Everyone hates me. They think I cause bad things to happen. They think I'm a freak. I wish I was dead. As tears turned to sobs, she felt her grandmother's hands on her shoulders. Despite her advanced age and diminutive size, she was a woman of surprising strength, and Kaine found herself unable to turn away. Don't talk like that, Kaine. It's a river wide and deep that flows between the realms of this world and the next, and it grants no mercy to any attempt to cross, and you got a duty to fight until your last breath. Understand? The old woman tightened her grip and tried to still the tremor in her voice. You know the pain of losing someone close to you, Kaine. You know because you survived it. As the words hit home, Kaine was struck by the force of her love for the old woman. As a young child, she didn't even know her grandmother, but when her parents died, the woman quickly accepted her as her own. Grandma, as Kaine called her, was cunning, vulgar, and quick to violence, and the first few years together had not been easy. But with each year that passed, Kaine and her grandmother had grown closer. However, it was only now, sitting in the mud with tears and blood caking her face, Kaine truly understood the depths of her affection. Here was a woman who had seen hard times, who had seen death, who had fought through all these things and somehow emerged on the other side. If anyone could understand Kaine's pain and loneliness, it was her. Do I make you sick, Grandma?
Course not. Don't be an ass.
Kaine drew her grandmother's moth-eaten shawl around her body and shuddered. But my body, it's not normal. If I was normal, Mom and Dad wouldn't...
Hush, interrupted Grandma. I'll not hear another word of this nonsense.
I don't believe they ever outright say it, but the incredibly strong implication is that Kaine does in fact have a penis. I believe transgender? Vestite? I don't know the proper term. But transsexual? I don't know. But she has, at the very least, it's heavily implied she has a penis. I don't know about other particular organs.
Hush, interpreted Grandma. In other words, you're my granddaughter and I love you. If folks have a problem with that, they can just go to hell.
Hence the bullying. With that, the old woman reached out and placed a wreath of dried flowers in Kaine's hair. The silk took it to bend. That's not me reading into it, by the way. It is confirmed that this is what the game is implying. And if you read extended material that has been published by the creators online, it does straight up say it. Dried flowers in Kaine's hair. The skill it took to bend the flowers without breaking the stems or losing a single petal was remarkable, and the beauty of it made Kaine want to cry all over again. Oh my gosh, these are lunar tears! Grandma, you made this for me? Lunar tears were legendary flowers. Most people could live their entire lives without ever seeing one, and yet her grandmother had somehow collected a dozen or more. Farming. Kaine reached up and touched the wreath. She couldn't believe it was real. Where did you find these?
Oh, you know, just stumbled on them one day while I was out doing the shopping.
The old woman turned away as she was explaining, leading Kaine to suspect that the search had been much more difficult than she was letting on. The pain she took to construct this ornament, let alone track down the flowers used in its construction, made Kaine's heart hurt. She reached up and gently adjusted the wreath, admiring the way it felt between her fingers.
Didn't quite turn out right, said her grandmother as she squinted at it. These old hands have trouble with delicate work, but it sure looks good on a pretty girl like you.
Kaine blushed and turned away. You think I'm pretty?
Course you are. What a fool thing to say.
Thank you, Grandma. Her grandmother smiled.
We're gonna be fine, you and me, she said. As long as we've got each other, we'll be just fine.
Kaine took her grandmother's hand in hers, and the two of them struggled to their feet. As they began the long walk home, Kaine gripped the hand with all her might, as if trying to stop smoke from drifting away on the wind. The rain had stopped. Kaine stood beneath the weather vane, watching it spin in lazy circles, no longer caring about the direction it faced when it stopped. I don't need escape. I have a home now. Grandma loves me, and that's enough, even if it's us against the world. Kaine let her gaze drift past the vane into the cloudy sky. The last faint hints of rainbow were slowly fading. As she turned and headed home, the light scattered into a million particles and vanished, seemingly taken away on the breeze. Kaine's dreams, daily life. Sorry if I sound distracted. I meant to have a pen ready to write down times for this video, although I'd probably be fine. In the distance, Kaine heard the steady sounds of axe striking wood. The noise had a purposeful quality to it, as if she was hearing a master woodsman go about his work. The firewood being produced, however, was far from a work of art as could be. Pieces of every shape and size were being flung about a barren yard with wild abandon. Anyone trying to stack such wood would probably die of frustration before the job was through. Stupid piece of shit axe! Kaine's grandmother flailed away with the axe, filling the air with both splinters of wood and words that would make the most hardened sailor blush. "Grandma!" Kaine called.
"What?"
yelled the old woman, taking her eyes off the wood for a moment.
"That was you, Kaine. Don't get too close or I might take you for a goddamn foot off by mistake."
She brought the axe down again on a piece of wood, sending chips flying in every direction. One spun past Kaine close enough for her to hear the whistle, at which point she decided to step back. Once she'd scuttled to a safe distance, she kept her hands around her mouth and shouted, "Grandma, do you need help? I can get you water or lunch or a new axe or something." The axe, poised to strike another wobbly blow, paused in midair. The woman considered her granddaughter's offer for a moment, then smiled.
Tell you what, since I'm doing such a piss-poor job of chopping, why don't you come here and take over so I can get the water? Shades have been restless lately, you know, and I don't want you running into one of them bastards.
Relinquishing the axe, her grandmother picked up a long pole with wooden buckets on each end. Gathering water was by far the more difficult task of the two jobs, but Kaine knew better than to complain. Once Grandma's mind was set, there was no changing it. Kaine did her best to help with the chores, but Grandma took every task that required travel to village. Though she had a long list of plausible excuses, Kaine knew the real reason. She didn't want her granddaughter to be taunted and harassed by the villagers. Once Kaine moved in, Grandma decided to take up residence a good distance from the area. Out of sight, out of mind seemed to be the best policy when it came to the villagers and her granddaughter, and rare were the days when anyone but the two of them could be found on the rocky acre of land they called home. Kaine enjoyed the solitude, but harbored a secret resentment that her grandmother was forced to spend golden years in such a place. After watching her grandmother leave, Kaine turned her attention to the task at hand. She had never chopped wood before in her life, and soon discovered why the old woman hated the chore. Swing after swing of the axe produced only a tiny crack in the wood, and when she finally managed to connect with a solid stroke, the tool embedded itself in the log and refused to budge. Have you never chopped wood before? Frustrated, no, she hasn't actually. It's a dumb question, me. Keep up, Token. Kaine swung the axe around her head and threw it, log and all across the yard. Damn it, crap! She suddenly understood the joy her grandmother felt in a good curse. Happier now, she picked up the axe, forced it from the wood, and resumed chopping. She had natural skill with the blade, but the task was challenging, and the blisters soon began to form on her small pink hands. This is tough, and all my logs are weird sizes. Spitting on her palms and ignoring the pain, Kaine redoubled her efforts. Just as she was developing a rhythm, Grandma returned from the village. Setting down her buckets with a small sigh, she took one look at the logs and coughed out a wheezy laugh. Pretty clumsy, girl. You better practice if you... Her grandmother suddenly collapsed to her knees, causing one of the buckets to wobble precariously. Eyes wide, Kaine dropped the axe and ran to her grandmother's side. Grandma! The old woman shook her head and pointed a trembling finger at the bucket. Get the bucket. Can't let it spill. Kaine stayed the bucket with a foot and knelt by her grandmother. A small bit of water sloshed over the side and made a new home in the hem of her dress, but Kaine didn't notice. Grandma, what's happening? Crazed with panic, she grabbed her grandmother by the shoulders and shook. After a moment, the woman lifted her arms and batted Kaine away. Stop that! Just stop now, she cried, breathing heavily. It ain't like I'm dying, just tired from the trip is all. Kaine desperately wanted to believe her, but one look at the old woman's shaking hands and worn face told her more than words ever could. Her grandmother had lived a long, hard life, and it seemed the bill was coming due. The time when her grandmother watched over Kaine was ending. Sooner than either of them had feared, the positions would be reversed. The next morning, Kaine came to the side of her grandmother's bed and took her wrinkled hand. Grandma, you're sick and you need medicine. I'm going to the village. The old woman shook her head and tried to rise, but Kaine gently pushed her down. It's all right, she said. I'll be fine. Her grandmother fixed her gaze that could melt steel. After what seemed like an eternity, she finally lowered her eyes and sighed. Well, I don't like it, goddammit, but I guess I should quit being so stubborn and let you grow up. The old woman watched as Kaine strapped on her boots and made her way down to the village road. Hours later, an unseen sun made its way across a dark and rainy sky. She was still watching. Kaine moved at a brisk pace, checking her pockets every few minutes to make sure the money her grandma gave her was still there. Every noise caused her to spin on her heels, making sure she wasn't being stalked by a shade, or worse, Demo and his gang. But she encountered neither tormentors nor shades, and Kaine finally found herself at the entrance of the village. The few adults she could see glanced sideways at her, then muttered to each other behind raised hands before slinking away into the shadows. Her heart racing, Kaine took a series of rapid, shallow breaths and tried to calm herself. I have to prove myself. I have to help Grandma. I have to be strong. She chanted those words to herself over and over as she made her way. Finally, her eyes settled on a rotund older woman who was angrily waving her arms in the air, telling everyone to listen exactly what she thought of Kaine's presence. Hey lady, Kaine said with bravado she did not feel. Where's the apothecary? The woman's flabby cheeks shook in bewildered anger. How dare this thing speak to me, she seemed to say. But Kaine saw in her eyes a different emotion, fear. Yeah, we're both scared, lady. Trust me on this one. Which way? Kaine repeated. The woman pointed at a small building to her right before hitching up her dress and stumbling off in the other direction. Kaine cringed, expecting a stone to come flying from the assembled crowd, but none came. Her mind was filled with a strange sense of pride as she made her way to the apothecary, but the new emotion had little time to take root, for as soon as she opened the door, she noticed a familiar customer at the counter. It was Demo. He was clearly being sent here on some kind of family errand, because his gang of followers was nowhere to be found. Oh my god, I mean, what are you doing here, freak? The insult was delivered without force, and Kaine happily ignored it. Stretching on tiptoes to see over the counter, she asked the shopkeeper for medication. Ha! Barked Demo. That old bitch finally keel over? Go to hell, Demo. The boy's eyes grew so wide he seemed ready to fall out of his head, but before he could let fly a comeback, or worse, a punch, the apothecary told him to knock it off before he kicked them out of his store. Demo slunk out of the shop, cursing Kaine under his breath. Once he was gone, she allowed herself to breathe once more, taking a brief tour of the shop while the owner prepared the medicine. Countless tiny bottles filled the cramped store, each with a label written in some indecipherable language. An ocean of aromas assaulted her nose, creating a scent that was exotic but not altogether unpleasant. Seeing such a variety of supplies gave Kaine a sense of peace. Surely in a world so vast there would be a place she could call home. On the far wall behind the counter rested a portrait of a stunning young girl. The picture had once contained bright, vibrant colors, but time had worked its magic, and they were beginning to fade. The beauty of the work, however, remained undiminished. "You like that picture?" Kaine turned to find the apothecary with a small vial of medicine in his hands. His eyes were gentle but sad, and they seemed to stare at her through her and into nothing as she spoke. "That's my daughter. I sketched it when she was just a little girl. She's been dead a long time now." Kaine didn't know how to respond. She just stared at the portrait and tried to come up with the right words. "Pictures are wonderful things," continued the shopkeeper. "They let the ones closest to you live on forever." He shook his head slightly, then looked down at Kaine and smiled. Handing her the medicine, he reached into a sizable green apron and produced a handful of old wax crayons. "You should have these. There's no one left that I wish to draw." Kaine took an instinctive step back, causing the shopkeeper's face to darken. "Yes, I've heard the rumors about you," he said. "It's a small village and word travels quickly. Between you and me, I'm not sure which of them to believe, but I also don't think they matter much. I knew your grandmother, Kaine, and I think the way she was driven out of this town is just deplorable." "Grandma's name is Kaine," Kaine thought suddenly. She was still mulling over this new fact in her head as she reached out and gently took the crayons from the apothecary's hand. "Your grandmother's an old friend of mine," he said as Kaine scooted away yet again, "and I owe her much. I'm willing to wager she would like it if you drew a picture of her. Yes, I think she'd like that very much." Kaine murmured a quiet agreement, but inside her heart was bursting. Never before had a villager treated her with anything but complete contempt. It was a tiny, almost imperceptible step, but it was a step nonetheless. And with enough tiny steps, she might one day discover the rest of the world. When Kaine returned home, she found her grandmother asleep in her bed. Her feet were blackened and raw. Ugh. Even bleeding a bit in places, leading Kaine to think she had been pacing around the room until exhaustion finally caught up with her. She placed the medicine on her grandmother's pillow and turned to leave, but found the old woman's hand clasped on her arm. "Back already, are you?" the grandmother asked with a yawn. "Come here, let me have a look at you." Grandma sat up and examined Kaine from head to toe. Finally satisfied nothing terrible had befallen her grandchild, she leaned back and allowed herself to relax. "Well, how was it? Did those bastards give you any trouble?" "It was kind of fun," said Kaine with a small smile. "No, seriously, it was." "It was fun, was it?" asked the grandma in a voice which implied she believed anything but. "Uh-huh. So anytime you need me to run an errand, just let me know." As she spoke, Kaine removed the crayons from her pocket. After a brief explanation of their source, she informed her grandmother she was going to sketch her portrait. "Portrait of me? Ridiculous. No one wants to stare at a wrinkled old crone." "But, Grandma, it'll make you live forever." "Horse manure," Grandma said, throwing back a sheet. "Living forever would just piss me off. Now put those crayons away and help me with the dinner." But Kaine would not relent, and in the end, Grandma found herself leaning against the wall of their house as if posing for a master artist. Kaine took the crayons and eyed her subject carefully. Just as her grandmother was about to nod off, Kaine finished the work. After staring at it for a bit, she released it from her grip and let it slowly drift to the floor. "It's terrible. It doesn't look like you at all." That's what baffles me about artists. They, first of all, can make a straight line, and already I'm 1,000 steps behind that. And then they can make more straight lines that form recognizable pictures, and that's just not something I can comprehend. Or do. I'm sorry, Grandma. The crayons would, make drawing easier or something." The old woman's eyes narrowed in her granddaughter's disappointment. "Let me be the judge of that," she said, ignoring the pain in her back and reaching for the paper. The sketch could have been a person's face, could have been a boulder, a lump of clay, or an incredibly misshapen loaf of bread, all rendered in a chaotic array of colors. The old woman stared at the picture for a long time and slowly wheezed out a laugh. "Oh, Kaine," she said between laughter, "you truly are my blood. You're as clumsy as me, and I love it. But, hush, I won't hear any more bull about how ugly you think it is. It came from the heart, and I'll treasure it always." Sort of the on-the-fridge treatment. True to her word, the old woman gave a picture of place in honor above the kitchen table. There you go. In the days that followed, Kaine would often catch her staring at the portrait with a strange smile on her face, an action she interpreted as silent, mocking laughter. A week later, Kaine could stand it no longer and asked her grandmother to take the artwork down. "Posh!" the old woman said. "I'll take it down when they roll me in my shroud." She pondered this for a bit, then turned to Kaine and dropped to one knee. "Listen to me, girl. Seeing this picture makes me happy in a way I've never felt before, and it makes me want to go out so that someday you can feel the same happiness." It was a moment that burned itself into Kaine's memory, a perfect blend of pride and love and joy that came together to form a lifelong remembrance. She swore to never forget this moment, to only forget the old woman who had made her place, and to never forget the old woman that made her place in the world possible. Time moves on. People and memories come in and out of life like ghosts passing through a hall, but this moment will be different, Kaine swore, because I will remember it forever. forever. This is going to be one long video, by the way. Kaine listened to the sound of crackling firewood and stared at the black object on her plate. She'd been pushing around on the wooden disc for a good 10 minutes, ignoring the bemused stare of her grandmother. Finally, she summoned the courage and gave the object a brief sniff. A sharp, bitter scent flew up her nostrils and made its home there, causing her face to twist with disgust. "Grandma, I can't believe you want me to eat a bug." The old woman threw some more wood under the cooking pot and snorted. "It's no bug, you fool girl, it's a berry." "Why in the hell would I be feeding you bugs?" "Yeah, well, it sure looks like a bug," Kaine said. "And I think it's burnt or something because it smells terrible." With that, Kaine held her nose and threw the berry in her mouth, chewing as little as possible. "Oh yeah, that's terrible, all right." "Why, you little brat," laughed the old woman. "Look at the sass on you. You've been spending too much time with me, and that's a fact." 5 years had passed since the moment when Kaine's grandmother saved her from the bullies. As is often so, she's probably like teenager. Probably like 13, 14, right around there. Maybe 15, who the hell knows. As is often the way with two stubborn people, their relationship had grown in fits and starts, but moved forward all the same. Meals that used to be somber affairs are now filled with laughter and hurled abuse in equal measure. Kaine could not remember a time when she had been happier. That's what I want in my life. Somebody I can have hurled abuse sass dinners with. As the years went by, mutual hurled abuse sass dinners with, mind you. Kaine started to shoulder more and more of the daily responsibilities. Her grandmother's legs grew weaker by the day, and she could no longer do many of the chores she used to take for granted. And so this morning, found Kaine lacing up her work boots with a breakfast of burned berries rolling in her belly. "Where are you going today?" her grandmother asked suddenly. Kaine looked up surprised. The old woman rarely asked for specifics anymore. "Well, I was going to check out the kelma trees and see if they were ripe. I thought we could cook some jam or something. Oh, and I'm going to pick up some flagstones. Flagstones in a text adventure? Oh, no!" "Flagstones? What in the hell for?" Kaine stared at her grandmother and held out an arm and swept it around their home. Constructed mostly of cloth, rope, and rubble, the old place sagged like a boxer in the final round. "Grandma, a dying cat could chew through this house. I'm going to build a stone wall so that we have some protection." The woman laughed, exposing a toothless grin into the world. "God damn it, girl, if a bunch of thieves want to ransack this old place, let them come. We got nothing worth stealing anyway. I'm not worried about thieves, I'm worried about shades. People saw one west of the village yesterday." The old woman tilted her head and stared at her granddaughter. "Well, shoot. I don't know why you have to do it today. We can worry about it some other—" "Grandma, no. If I don't get the kelma trees, we won't eat tonight. You know that." A confused expression passed the old woman's face for a moment. She was a small child lost at a carnival. "Yes," she said after a bit. "Yes, of course you're right. I'm sorry, Kaine. Lately it seems like my mind is—" She didn't finish the thought, instead walking over to her nightstand, gently taking a wreath of lunar tears from the drawer. The flower's petals had aged in a brilliant whiteness, and Kaine thought it was more beautiful now than the day she first received it. "You're going to be a true woman soon," Grandma said as she placed the flowers in the girl's hair. "So that means less chatter about shades and building defensive walls, and more talk about how beautiful you've become." Annoyed, Kaine reached up to remove the garland, but the look on her grandmother's face stopped her hand. "You're a beautiful thing," said the old woman, "and there ain't another like you in the entire world. I'm very proud of you." "Okay, Grandma, that's enough for the goddamn compliments for one day." "Such a mouth on you. Where did that come from?" "Geo under." "I'll teach you to sass me, girl." It's like two dueling kaitas. Suddenly, she lurched forward and grabbed Kaine by the ears, pulling her around the room with a crazed grin on her face. "Grandma," yelled Kaine in a quaking voice. "Grandma, stop it! What the hell?" The old woman stared at her and blinked, then slowly held her wrinkled hand out as if it was the first time she'd ever seen them. "Oh, I don't know what happened there. I'm sorry, girl. Sometimes my mind just—" Kaine thought the look on her grandmother's face was the most heartbreaking thing she'd ever seen. "Listen," she began, "maybe I should stay home after all." "No, I won't have you stay here and keep an eye on an old codger like me." "Oh, shit." "You go and get your fruit and your wallet and whatnot. I'll be fine. And when you come back, I'll have a nice grasshopper dinner waiting for you." Kaine rolled her eyes and kissed her grandmother on the forehead and made ready to depart, trying desperately to ignore the worry that was gnawing at the walls of her heart. Kaine could feel the woman's eyes watching her as she moved down the path. Don't turn around, she told herself, but in the end the temptation was too great. She spun on her heel for one final look and saw a small bent woman standing in front of a ramshackle hut with a sad expression on her face. God, she looks so old now. It's like the wind could reach down and just carry her away. Kaine worried about her grandmother all day, causing the work to suffer. What little fruit she could collect was tossed carelessly into the wheelbarrow, and she only found a couple of stones before losing interest in the project. Finally, as dusk approached, she decided to call it a day. Cursing herself for the lack of focus, Kaine pushed the nearly empty wheelbarrow back down the path. As it crested the final hill, she suddenly froze in place. The wheelbarrow fell from her fingers and collapsed on its side, sending a few pieces of wrinkled brown fruit rolling down the hill. Her gaze was transfixed on a thick black cloud that hovered just overhead. Tracing its path with a finger, Kaine suddenly felt something in her stomach knot in on itself. No. Oh gods, no. Her grandmother's house was ablaze, the flames licking up as if it was trying to touch the sky itself. Grandma? Grandma! Kaine ran, faster than she'd ever moved in her life. Once she tripped on a stone and went sprawling into the rocky ground, but she leapt to her feet and continued running, unmindful of the blood spilled from the wounds on her hands and knees. As she got closer and closer, Kaine's mind began to race in time with her footfalls. It's too dark. It's too dark. Not just fire. Can't be fire. Too much smoke. Gotta save her. Gotta save her. She burst into the front yard and came to a sudden halt, her worst suspicions confirmed. The smoke from the fire was mingling with thick, inky blackness of an enormous shade. The massive creature supported itself on 3 twisted feet and achieved balance through means of a large, armored tail. It is Hook. Scales, horns, and claws sprouted from the body in random, chaotic pattern, giving it an appearance of a lizard designed by some insane god. Seeing Kaine, it let out a roar and flicked its tail, sending small whirlwinds spinning around the yard. For a moment, the creature retreated into a shimmering, inky blackness, as if her mind was unable to comprehend that such a thing could actually exist. But then the smell hit her, a blend of rotted meat and excrement. The horror became real once more. The creature bellowed again. This time Kaine responded with a scream of her own. "Alright, you bastard," she thought as her scream echoed off in the hill cliffs. "It's you or me. Let's go." The shade eyed Kaine with bemused interest. It began looking at her from house and then back again, as if urging her to look in the destruction it had so gleefully wrought. With dread building in her heart, Kaine glanced towards the house. Through the smoke and flames, she spotted a small figure struggling to escape the ruins. Grandma! At the sound of her voice, the old woman began waving frantically. She's alive, Kaine thought. She's alive! Kaine's legs sprang to life as she raced across the yard, towards the flaming wreckage of the house. Before she advanced more than a few steps, the shade opened its mouth and let out a roar powerful enough to uproot trees and send them flying. The blast sent Kaine tumbling through the air before smashing her against the rocky earth. Stars danced in front of her eyes as she tried to remember how her legs worked. Get up! Get up! Get up, get up, get up, get up, get up, now! As Kaine struggled to her feet, the shade stomped forward to the house and pinned her grandma to the ground with the tip of its claw. The old woman struggled to move the claw from her stomach, but she might as well have been pushing a mountain. She coughed briefly, sending a small spray of blood into the air, then collapsed to the ground, her energy spent. Kaine lurched to her feet, only to fall back to earth with a gasp. Her ankles were on fire. One or both of them were surely broken. Ignoring the pain that screamed through her body, she began dragging herself across the ground, leaving a drunken trail of dust and blood in her wake. Grandma, hold on, just a little longer. Her grandmother's face was turning blue, her eyes rolling back, only whites were exposed. Kaine pulled herself across the ground with maddening slowness, the distance seeming to increase with every second that passed. The shade glanced between the two women and flicked its tongue, a giant mouth turning up at the corners. Short, panting breaths belched from somewhere deep inside its core. Bastard! Laughing at us! She had no idea how such a mindless creature could experience emotion, but there could be no doubt the shade was taking joy in their suffering. Yeah, I see your plan. Shade moved its claw slightly, allowing Grandma to breathe again. It was clearly keeping her alive, only to snuff her out when Kaine was close enough to touch her. I'm gonna kill this bastard. Summoning all her strength, Kaine rose to her feet. There was a sickening snap from her right ankle as the foot twisted backwards, but she forced it from her mind and began to hobble towards the monster. Pulling a small knife from the pouch at her waist, she leapt on the foot that pinned her grandma and plunged the weapon deep. "Give her back!" she screamed. "Give her back to me!" It was like stabbing a rock. After a few swipes, the knife broke at the hilt with a dull snap. The shade panted laughter again, then raised its tail and sent it rushing through the air towards the young girl that was latched to its foot. Kaine never had a chance. The tail struck her square in the chest and sent her crashing into the burning wreckage of her home. As she lay on the ground with blood pouring from multiple wounds, a small, weak voice spoke up. "Kaine." Kaine's vision blurred and she forced herself to focus on the sound. Finally, her eyes cleared enough for her to make out her grandmother's hands reaching out through smoke. "Grandma!" "Kaine, you've gotta run. You can't defeat him." Kaine grabbed her hands and held on with all her strength. "Grandma, come on, we have to go." The old woman coughed loudly. One of her hands, slick with blood, slipped from Kaine's grasp and thumped to the ground below. Grandma, no! No! I said run, god damn it. You have to live. You have to get through. The thought would stay forever unfinished. Before she could say another word, the Shade's clawed foot descended, smashing through the remains of the roof and down upon the shattered figure of the woman. Blood oozed thickly from the creature's toes as the terrible putrid smell assaulted Kaine's nose once again. She stared at the foot, dumbfounded, convinced what she was seeing could not possibly be real. When the creature finally lifted its appendage, all that remained underneath was a twisted, unrecognizable mass of rubble and red. Her grandmother was gone. Kaine blinked, trying to feel the hand which had been in there just moments before. For a fleeting instant, she could remember the warmth of the embrace, the trembling of fingers, and the sensation drifted away on the breeze and was gone. Memories flashed through Kaine's mind, one after another, faster and faster until they became a meaningless jangle of noise. Kaine screamed, then a thunderous sound that echoed from the cliff seemed to roll away forever. The Shade eased forward, black ichor pouring from its mouth and dissolving the smoke on the ground. The earth shook with every step as it crept forward towards its prey. Kaine's body slowly rose as if controlled by a mad puppet master. Her arms and legs bent in impossible angles, her head lulled dangerously to the side, yet somehow she managed to stand. Staring at the Shade, her eyes began to glow with a deep red fire. The creature, so confident just moments before, took a slow, hesitant step backwards, trying to discern if the broken human could possibly pose a threat. Kaine seized the moment. Laughing like a madwoman, she leapt in the air and plunged the shattered hilt of her knife deep into the leg of the Shade. Shade shook Kaine off like a fly, sending her crashing to the earth once again. Her chest rose and fell slowly, as if a great weight was resting on it. Moist sounds of pain echoed through her mind. Something warm and thick oozed from her ears. Is that blood? Think it is. Think I'm bleeding to death. No. Can't die. Grandma told me to live. Deep inside Kaine's mind, something finally broke. The sound, the pain, the smoke, and the flames. All of it faded away until it remained a single incantation repeated over and over again. Kill it. Kill it. Kill it. Kill it, 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 kill it. A lot of kill it's. Kill it now. As the spark that was Kaine slowly began to flicker and die, she felt her desire to kill and her desire to live blend into one. The distance between heartbeats grew longer and longer and longer. I thought there was another part to that. I need a pen. I gotta start writing this shit down when the timestamps are. God damn it, where the hell is my pen?
Oh, I got it.
Yeah, shut up, Vice. Killed it already. Pen. Son of a bitch. I don't see a pen. Why not have a pen on my desk? That's insane. Ah, there's a pen. That's it. Found a pen, everyone. I know that's what you're worried about in this current situation. Well, I mean, I guess there was another part. Where's that fucking pen? Not the end of the episode, as you can clearly see by the timestamp. Yeah, gently. It's just fucking 38:30. Another dash there. Started at, what do we call that? 40. Yeah, call it 20. Let's figure it out. So much of this damn story. Why'd they make me fight that guy? Gently, weakly, softly, the Shade, sure that its tormentor was dead, turned and stomped off towards the horizon, stopping along the way to bellow one final roar. Couldn't kill it. So sorry, Grandma. Couldn't avenge you. Shamed beyond imagination, Kaine tried to turn her head to the side, but only succeeded in coughing up a huge gout of blood. It was getting difficult to see, and only after a moment of fierce concentration did she realize her left eye was gone. Laughing to herself, she turned her remaining eye towards the ruins of her home and noticed a ragged stump of an arm resting a few feet away. Yeah, that's mine, she thought with a mad giggle. This is gonna make clapping a real bitch. Ha! Oh. Ha! Cried a sudden voice from the depths of her mind. Finally gonna die, are you? Well, you had it coming. Go to hell, Demo, she thought in the unseen assailant. Go to hell before I pluck out your eyes and feed them to a dog. The voice of her childhood terror evaporated into smoke, only to be replaced by yet another, more recent voice. "Hold still," said the apothecary, materializing from the ruins like a ghost. "I want to draw you. That way you can live forever." "No, stop. Don't want to live forever. Want to die right here." "I see," said quietly. "Well, if that's how you wanted." Spectral shopkeeper fluttered in and out of existence for a moment, then produced a piece of paper and sketched quickly. After a few seconds, he turned the page to Kaine and smiled. "Since you rejected my offer, I decided to draw someone else." It was a picture of her grandma, real as life. Kaine opened her mouth to thank the man, but stopped as the picture began to blacken in the middle. Before she could say anything, thousands of multi-legged insects began to swarm across the image, tearing at it with sharpened pincers. "No, stop! Don't hurt that picture!" Kaine reached out with her remaining arm and waved futilely in the air. To her surprise, the insects fell off the picture and onto the ground below, where they vanished into black tendrils of smoke. Kaine turned her good eye back to the picture, only to open her mouth in a silent scream. The sketch now showed her grandmother as she truly was, a smashed, unrecognizable lump of nothing. The apothecary smiled and broke into a jolly dance. "See that?" he cried, dancing jig. "It's perfect now. She looks just like you. Ha-cha-cha-cha-cha!" "I look like that? Oh God, I'm going to die. I'm going to die." Drowning in despair, Kaine held her head back in the mud, smoke of her ruined house, and waited for the end to come. But just before she let everything go, an unfamiliar voice began to whisper in her ear. "Ain't you gonna wish, sunshine?" That voice was vulgar and fierce at the same time, as if insanity had somehow found its way to take form. Kaine wanted to scream as the voice crawled under her skin, but her lungs refused to work. "You know, a wish, like a prayer or something. Why don't you get on your knees and start praying to heaven? Please, invisible man in the sky, save me, save me." Yeah. Kaine finally resorted to shouting at the voice in her mind. "I don't make wishes. They don't come true for me. I'm a curse, a freak. I should be left to die." The other voice boomed in her ears. "Oh, God, you are the best." Kaine glanced down and saw a black, shiny substance oozing from her leg. She tried to brush it away, but her remaining arm would no longer respond. The substance slowly crept around her feet and began moving towards the rest of her body. Is this death? Is this what it's like? Or is my mind just losing itself? She could feel the slime oozing upwards, feeling the hot, searing pain it left in its wake. Whatever else might be happening, she was alive, and this was real. "Come on," said the voice. "Let it go." Kaine tried to ignore the voice and concentrate on the pain, but the newcomer would have none of it. "Don't ignore me, sunshine. You're ready to give up, ready to die, so why not let me have it?" "Have what?" "Your body. Come on, give it to me. Give it to me. I want to stand on ground, feel the rain, taste the wind." The voice paused as if licking its lips. When it resumed, it was filled with mad, unabated joy. "And I want to take your hands and use them to choke the goddamn life out of people. I want to tear out their throats and bathe in the blood just like before." So, if you're keeping up, this is the shade that's in Kaine, and it's a serial killer. In response, Kaine shifted her head to vomit. The warmth of it crept down her front and mingled with pain of encroaching black ooze. Are you a shade?" "Yeah, maybe. What of it?" The slime reached her face and crept up past her nose and slowly oozed into the socket of her missing eye. The moment it touched her brain, Kaine was struck with the most powerful sensation she ever felt in her life. It was ecstasy. She wanted to scream with delight, but all she could manage was a small, whispered moan. "Feels good, don't it?" asked the voice with a chuckle. "Yeah, what can I say? I know how to please the ladies. Now give me that body. Come on, give me the body and I'll give you more of this feeling. It's a fair trade." A black lump began to protrude from Kaine's side. As she watched, it grew longer and thicker, eventually taking the form of a missing arm. "I can see better," she thought. "My eye must be growing back too." The slime reached up to envelop the rest of her face, but she managed to brush it away. "Stop," she whispered, marveling at how she had regained her voice. "Stop!" The black ooze hesitated, as if considering this request, then quickly shimmered down her body before disappearing in a cloud of smoke. "Ah, what the hell, sunshine!" screamed the voice. "We had a deal. I thought you wanted to die." Grandma said, "I can't die yet." A brief image of her grandmother, bloodied and broken, flashed before her eyes. She saw the shade that killed her and heard the mocking laughter, then closed her eyes and forced the image from her mind. Her whole body was quaking with rage. When she opened her eyes again, they were burning bright red. "That thing took my grandmother. I have to kill it before I die." Kaine glanced down and saw a mysterious pattern. pattern of a shade burning itself into her left arm.
Well, I'll be damned, said the voice cheerfully. Look at that, Sunshine. I think you and me are going to be good friends now.
Kaine stared intently at her arm. The more emotional she had felt, the more the letters seemed ready to puncture her skin and began infecting the rest of her body. The arm clearly had a will of its own now. Stop! Gotta stop! Holding her left arm in her right, Kaine took a deep breath and tried to calm herself.
Come on, don't fight it, pleaded the voice. Hate's my favorite dish and I'm hungry. Let it go. Feel the anger. Burn with the fire of revenge. Thirst for blood. Then go out there and shut up. Shut up and get the hell out of my body. Your body. That's rich, Sunshine. Real rich. Look, why don't you just up and die so I can have this body all to myself? What do you say? I bet those buddy of yours in the area would love to see you dead.
Kaine grabbed a nearby shard of glass and tried to saw off the shade-infected portion of her side. Before she could, her darkened left arm grabbed her right wrist, crushing it. Kaine screamed and dropped the shard at the sound of bone crushing on bone filled the air.
Stupid idiot girl, you're possessed now, Sunshine, and there ain't no going back.
The voice laughed again, a loud, long wail that seemed to go on without end.
Possessed? Whispered Kaine. Yeah, possessed. You and me, we got what you might call a timeshare arrangement. Remember how folks used to think you were a freak? Well, wait till they get a load of you now.
Kaine looked up, tears in her eye. The sky seemed smaller somehow, darker.
Is this because of that shade? Is this how they see the world?
So, listen. I know this whole possession thing seems a bit sudden, but it ain't all bad. There's plenty in it for you, too. I'm a very powerful creature, Sunshine, and now that power belongs to you. You got enemies, people you want to kill, I can make it happen. That little fat kid who kept picking on you, that big old shade that squashed your granny, we'll wrap them up in their own assholes. No more abuse for you, Sunshine. No more pain.
Wait, Kaine said. You're a shade. Why would you help me kill another shade?
What, you think I'm some kind of racist? Some killing snob? I don't give a goddamn who you murder, honey pants. I just want to drink from the well. Kaine considered this as she struggled to her feet, the power of the shade coursing through her. The smoke from her house was drifting away with the wind, and she enjoyed the way the cool evening breeze felt on her new left arm. After a long pause, the voice spoke up again. So, how about it? You and me. We could have some good times together. Look, I'll even take care of the bloody part if you don't want. Fuck off, asshole, muttered Kaine. I'll handle the killing. Ha! Look at you go. Oh, Sunshine, we're gonna have so much fun. Basically, I don't know. It's been years since I've read this. I don't know if it'll say it outright. If Kaine isn't the incredibly forceful person that she is, who we all know and love, the shade takes over. So listen, my name's Tyran, and if you ever need me, I'll just be hanging out in this piece of meat you call a heart. Now get to it. The more you kill, the more your heart turns rotten and sour. And I like rotten and sour. Kaine found herself nodding at the voice. Yeah, I think this can work. Basically, the shade does... He's giving her power because she has a blood rage and bloodlust, and he likes that sort of thing, but he would still, you know, like the body. So, as long as she's alive and kicking, he can't take over, but if she ever stops being alive and kicking, he takes over. I'm gonna find that shade and I'm gonna strangle it with its own guts. And when I'm done, I'm gonna do the same to you, Tyran. Count on it. Ha ha! Laughed Tyran. I've shit bigger than you, so good luck with that. Oh, and hey, one more thing. Right now, you and me sharing this body. But if you ever run out of hate, you know, if you ever go soft, then I'm gonna take over everything. Alright, says it there. So keep on killing. Almost weirdly, after I brought it up. So keep on killing, Sunshine, and watch your back. The voice grew fainter and gradually faded away, fading to somewhere deep inside Kaine herself. Kaine waited until she was sure the voice was gone. Then it waved a new left arm around a few times. Feels perfectly normal, she thought. Feels like mine. Desperately, she began poking and prodding the new limb, determined to find something wrong with it. She didn't want to feel normal. That would mean the creature inside her had already won. I'm not a shade. I'm Kaine. Repeating this mantra in her mind, she slowly began digging through the rubble of her house. being careful to ignore the red stained spot in the corner. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity of heartbreaking work, she found what she was looking for. It was the wreath of lunar tears. Though it had been through hell and back, the garland's petals were bright as ever. Kaine started to place it in her hair, then slowly lowered the wreath and stared at it. I'm sorry, Grandma. I'm so sorry. But I don't deserve to wear this anymore. I'm possessed, corrupted, a freak. And this time, I don't think there's any going back. Holding the flowers to her heart, Kaine fell to the ground and sobbed. As night gradually lightened to dawn, the people of the area rose to their daily lives. She remained in that position, as if tears could somehow wash away the horror that was now infected in her world.
Alive. Stay alive.
Alright, I think we're done with the,
Stay alive.
I think we're done with the Kaine narration. Nope. Maybe we are.
You gotta live.
Yeah,
You
we are.
gotta come
We're
back
done.
to us.
We're done with the narration. So, now the proper ending of this episode. Let me just jot this down. 52. Call it 53 even.